everyone. Welcome back to the rationalinvestor.com's data brief. It's about quarter past, excuse me, about quarter past the hour here on holiday, Monday, the 26th of December. Happy Christmas plus one. In Canada, we call this Boxing Day. I'm not quite sure what they call it around the world. I think over in the UK, they also call it Boxing Day. I don't know, actually, Chris, do they call it Boxing Day down in the States? Or
I don't
what do
think
they
that's a United States thing. Think that's just a Canada or EU thing.
call it? Anyway, it's a holiday because Christmas itself is technically a holiday, and it landed on a Sunday this year. So I think by default, we just jump over everything's a holiday today. I don't know what'll happen tomorrow. Because Boxing Day is technically a holiday in Canada as well. And of course, crazy socialists, they just want to keep having more and more and more government holidays. Just fascinating. When I was growing up, they always kind of, sort of conjectured, well, humans are only going to work like a day or two a week kind of idea that at the rate we're going now. And ironically enough, in my lifetime, in sort of my adult working lifetime, they just sort of manufactured the second government holiday in the month, which I find hilarious. Some month it's like, oh, it's BC Family Day. Like, what? But it's just literally a way for governments to spend less money so that they can spend more money. What? So if you don't have to pay wages to like the hourly people, you don't have to pay building heating costs and electricity costs and stuff for those days that are quote unquote holidays because the buildings are forcibly closed. Well, that frees up money for other pork barrel projects. Anyway, the sad thing is, I think the more that I live, the more I'm losing faith in this society and this government, which is a shame. But anyway, half of my mantra is I'm trying to make a positive difference in this world. So ironically enough, if you can actually just concentrate on trying to save a little bit of money, yeah, you're going to work a crappy job, but if you can just somehow put some money away and then apply the principles that we teach you, you can technically break yourself free of that whole system. And then you just sit here on holidays. Actually, you're like, well, I want to work. This is day. Am I actually working now? And they always say, of course, if you do what you love, technically you're not working. And then you get angry. This stuff is closed. It's like this crazy circle that goes around and around. Anyway, so happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. I don't know whether Hanukkah is now or not. Maybe that's over now. But anyway, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa. And Kwanzaa is also another holiday that's around this year. Of course, really what this is the winter, what is it? The solstice. And that's really what we're celebrating. And in Vancouver, it's great because, even right now at 9:20 in the morning, the sun barely just comes up. So this is technically the shortest day, the 20th, and that's really what this is all about. And the days are only getting longer now for the next 6 months. We turned the corner. Oh, thank goodness. It's going to do like a 30-minute sort of summary video here today. And then sort of, I want to get into the habit of doing that. And then the marketing department can go and edit that up and all that kind of fun stuff and polish it. Maybe cut off like the first little waste of 4 minutes of Brian just ranting here, Chris, later on. I don't know. It's up to you.
No problem.
And then once that's done, we'll take like a couple minute break. And then what I really want to do, since it is a holiday and everything's closed, and I don't see a heck of a lot of volatility in the market, what I really want to do is like a video on commitments to traders reports, just to sort of have like the summary video of sort of how we're ending the year with the way they're positioned. That's what I kind of wanted to do on the holiday today. Um, and actually, I had to say, before I got the video started, and I'm sort of an open book kind of guy. I mean, I'm not the handsomest guy in the world. And hell, I even wear my TRI hoodie on Christmas with my son. But what the hell? But I have to say, I have a lot to be very thankful for this year. My son, of course, is low functioning autistic. So, just getting a smile on his face is a good sign. So anyway, this is I was passing this out in the where are we here? Passing this out in the lounge when I came home from Lily last night. We had a good day. It was a good spirit. He was in good spirits. Him just even agreeing to take a photograph with me was a huge accomplishment. So it made me very, very happy. So I have a lot to be very thankful for this Christmas. I suppose this isn't part of the 30-minute summary. Maybe just like a little, if anything, almost consider this, Chris. Maybe you could even sort of say the first part of this video we could portion off as sort of Brian's sort of PMA Christmas wish to everybody.
Sounds good to me.
Uh, and also too, of course, every day of the week throughout the year, I get Christmas gifts in the form of Chris, in the form of Stuart, in the form of Julian, in the form of Josh, Shartoshi, Grim Toshi, Zach Toshi, Josie Toshi. Peter Toshi, right? Everybody's Toshi, right? Who did I miss? Murad Toshi. So thank you very much. Like I said, had a good day with Liam yesterday. Did my civic duty. Big smiles on his face, which I think made his day. So I got lots of Christmas gifts, and unfortunately. I come from a very bizarre DNA strain, I guess. My family and I would never seen eye to eye. The only person in my family that I had any sort of relationship with was my stepmother, who's not even technically blood relation. And it was really good to hear her voice yesterday. She's getting on, and I tracked her down. I didn't even know if she was even still alive, to be honest with you. So it was really great to hear her voice. God bless Christine. So, and I even exchanged a text message with one of my sisters yesterday. So on balance, actually, I came out of this Christmas pretty good. And so as a result, I actually woke up all full of piss and vinegar this morning. Let's go. And I even posted in the lounge, hey, do we want to have a marathon today? Let's see if we can go to 5 hours straight of Brian talking. No stops. I don't know. So we started that at 17 minutes past the hour. Gave you about a good 5-10 minute intro there. Like I said, Chris, if you want to sort of cut that out and just sort of put it, we'll call this Brian's New Year's, Christmas 2022, New Year's 2023 PMA message. Let's go and get this thing, shall we? I think we're ready to rock and roll. So
Let's do
PMA
it.
for the win. Hey, Chris, what do you want to add something to that?
I just said let's do it. I'm echoing your vigor there.
Right on. All right, let's go make a positive difference in this world. So with that said, we'll go 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to TRI's holiday edition of your 30-minute update. We're going to start it here a little bit late today, but as everybody was in the hangout there with me, and I think we even recorded it, but we'll see how that goes. I had a nice little chat with everybody, talk a little bit about my Christmas and what our aspirations are going forward. So we're going to do a little 30-minute summary here. So let's try and have this done by 10 a.m. And then if you would like, there should be a follow-up link, because it's a holiday. We're going to look at the commitments to traders reports for the different sectors of the market that we follow, as sort of like a subsequent video, being today is December 26th, holiday, Boxing Day here in Canada, day after Christmas, and then because Christmas typically is a holiday, so it's like basically everything's shut down. Even the volatility in crypto has come out of the market. But okay, first things first, spend about 5 minutes just reviewing the breadth. Actually, some encouraging data, I will say. Sometimes when we're down at the bottom end of the range, it takes a while for this data set to actually W out and start to turn the other direction. So at the very least, we take away from this that, hey, at least the patient lost, had their arm chopped off and they're gushing blood. At least now we've stopped the bleeding, and we've got the patient stabilized at least now. Doesn't necessarily mean like we're ready to grow a new arm back, but at least we're sort of stabilizing a little bit here. I still think too, and I've said this repeatedly, that the December 16th event, which was interestingly enough just right about there, that December 16th was a very significant derivatives expiration window. They call it quadruple witching, happens about once every quarter, quadruple. And it's a big institutional event. And I think a lot of the market volatility that you saw around that was coming out the other side of the Fed event. And basically the Fed said, look, inflation's a problem. We have to be restrictive on monetary policy. We've talked lots about monetary policy, the 4-year money cycle, and where we are in the respective part of the cycle, and what are the tools that we use to decide that. So by all means, go back and look in the previous videos. We've spent lots and lots of time explaining all that. So that shouldn't really be a surprise to anybody at all. If anything, if we're going to do one of those short videos, that little short, just piecing together how the money cycle worked, that would probably be a pretty good short, short video. Anyway, okay, so breadth, market got hammered through that post-Fed event, and then through the derivatives expiration, and of course, because of the concerns about inflation, and how in essence that's just a big tax that and big, right? Like literally some prices just went up like 50%. Go to your grocery store and see how much Christmas cost you relative to previous years. It's just like boom, right out of nowhere, and you're not getting that back. Thank you very much, Klaus. Thank you very much, central planners. This is our Western society that we lived in. Our leaders are technically substitute drama teachers, and they really don't understand anything about the money game. You want to learn more about the money game? Understand the Money Masters video. We don't need to go into that. Maybe we'll talk about that after the fact. But the point here is, kaboom! The derivatives markets punched us in the nose. Done. We're in a nasty, nasty macro environment. So even Santa Claus is kind of like, maybe we're going to have to cut back on the gifts this year. Thanks, Santa. And there just really was no Santa Claus rally. If anything, right before the Christmas event, probably in sort of some last minute hope that maybe the consumers come storming back in the last hour and spend some money here, we might see some more business, retail sales, that kind of stuff reported through this, and of course, ironically enough, when I was growing up, this is now the big sales window, the Boxing Day, and all that. So we'll see how it goes. If anything, like I said, at least we've stopped the bleeding for the time being. From a sort of histogram breadth perspective, market's actually pretty washed out. On a medium term, the bond market's actually gone to oversold now. Country funds on balance, and of course, think about it, Europe is just dying 1,000 deaths right now. Poor old Stuart and his family. They're having a pretty tough Christmas this year with like just ridiculously high energy prices. Cryptocurrencies. I even put out a tweet trying to remind everybody that you could make the argument that this is exactly what's supposed to happen at the bottom of all these markets. I've told people in the public this repeatedly. At the top of the market, I absolutely guaranteed everybody at the very top of the market here. I even remember talking about it in our weekly shows and all that. Whatever the scandal is that's actually going to derail the whole damn market, it's actually happening at the peaks here. So, back here, Mount Gox was happening through all this. And interestingly enough, I actually think that the Mount Gox guys sold their Bitcoins. I remember one day on BTCE back here, the price was sitting at about like $600-700, and then all of a sudden, just like that, it went zipping down to BTCE. It went all the way down to like $100, and then came spiking right back up. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. If you remember BTCE, then you'll know how cliche this whole space is. Um, Same thing here, right? I mean, this is the whole CME, but like Quadriga and all that kind of stuff all happened through here. This was the absolute worst of the market. So, I mean, you could make the argument at the very top as things were ramping up, Quadriga was kicking it. So, as things were going up here, I mean, half of the reason why there was this subsequent rally was all about DeFi and all that kind of wonderfulness. So, the SBFs of the world, it was basically happening. And, looking back in hindsight, there's no difference between Quadriga scandal and BFS or whatever his name is, and Mount Gox. I mean, ironically enough, it's exactly the same story. It's just classic extortion, or not extortion, embezzlement, or actually this is what for one specific person on the website is misappropriation. But it's not really misappropriation. But anyway, that's a famous line. Let's see if that guy knows what show that one's from. Anyway, so the irony of it all is, they always say the more things change, the more they stay exactly the same. And interestingly enough, I actually think we're probably within 6 months of some sort of major cyclic bottom on crypto. And how ironic, if you actually go out into the public and talk to the public, public's actually pretty sanguine about crypto, and we might even start getting into well, no, this time it's different. The regulators are going to crap on the space, and this day of stuff is never going to come back. So as soon as I start hearing somebody say that, then I know we're there. And that's basically exactly what I said in this tweet here, is as soon as somebody comes out and says, no, the regulators are going to put crypto out of business. This time it's different. There will be no cyclical turn. Then I know the turn's in. It's so ironic how this space works. It drives you crazy. But anyway, it's really just a function of human emotions and this fear-greed cycle that I'm trying to teach all you guys. It's so cliche. It's ridiculous. And now the good part about it, this past cycle, is we can now actually connect the Bitcoin cycle with the money cycle. So just as I was referring to earlier about the money cycle that we sort of learned about over the past 4 or 5 years and the way that the Fed has been sort of doing its games, it's actually directly connected to the Bitcoin cycle. And actually, I had a nice chat with somebody recently about that. Anyway, so the point of the matter here is Brent looks pretty darn washed out. The problem with this image, and I'd love to be able to scroll over time. I think if I'm not mistaken, Joshi does our blog post, and I think he does such a great job here. He pointed out, you can see this was the last signal that we had in the breadth indicator, and it pointed out this beautiful bottom pivot here. And you can see how the breadth image itself, how it takes time Like you see that this literally took like what the better part of a month, month and a half to saucer bottom out and then start to turn back up. Well, I would expect the same thing. So you can kind of see how we violently turn up. Okay, short goes on a little ways, but then it gets pretty far away from the moving average. And we got to sort of come back down and check it. And what we really want to see is notice that beautiful W in the slow teal indicator. And as soon as teal starts sort of trending up, then we know we're ready to rock and roll. So we go back to the bread here today, and you can see that, yeah, we have turned and we were oversold, and fast is rocking and rolling here. But teal is still very down. In fact, Josh actually himself, he likes to call this like a weak buy signal. The good part about this is I think it worked fairly well here. You can see right across the board, the whole market is, like I said, the bloodletting, thank heavens, is slowing down. But here's that Dow. Remember, I showed you that bottoming picture. Here's that topping picture. You can see how long it took to roll over. But you can see that we got all the way to zero here on the Dow. Most of the market pretty oversold and trying to show signs of coming back. Europe looks a little bit better. Canada even looks better. Australia looks better. So you can see the whole equity market's trying to turn here. And I think that's actually a perfect testament to the country funds here are just absolutely wiped out here. Right. So if anything, we're probably close to some sort of big like longer term pivot bottom in the equity space. So, frankly speaking, even I was surprised that the Santa Claus rally just never happened. That's very rare. Anyway, so looking down at crypto, and the cool part about crypto is I think it's a bit of a leading indicator. And it looks like it turned back up here. I'm following this for a trading plan. I don't know whether Josh is doing it as well. It would be cool if the both of us did this and we compared results at the end of the year. It would also be further validation. So anyway, point of the matter here is I did go and buy Bitcoin just on this cross. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, if we break back down, then I'll just close the position out. But I just want to track this data over the next month or two, or actually really over the next year, and then show you guys next December how this did. But I feel pretty confident that we will outperform. And if anything, we put 2 or 3 years of this kind of data together, and then we can go to Wall Street and get like 100, 200 million, $500 million and build a hedge fund out of this model. I think it's that good. Anyway. So point of the matter here is crypto on the medium term, along with sort of the stock market itself, I think it's looking pretty oversold. But maybe not quite, absolutely on its knees, desperation wiped out, which kind of leads me to believe, and this is sort of where I tweeted out this morning, I think these lows are probably going to look more like this bottom. And we had a big spike bottom low that was put in January of this 12 to 16 cycle. And that was like January 2015. And then we just kind of went sideways for the whole bloody year and just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but just basically went sideways. That's what I think is going to happen here for 2023. It's going to start with just a puke out, and then we just go sideways, and everybody just moans about how crappy everything is. And then, of course, at the same time, too, we've got this sort of inflationary push. So while a lot of these kind of assets like Bitcoin just go sideways, you're going to find that the price of your bread at the grocery store keeps going up. Oh, gee whiz, boo. Okay. So there's my 5 minutes on the breadth. Unfortunately, actually, that's not bad. What did I say? Yeah, that was about maybe 5-10 minutes.
I don't think there's many econs out today, given
Yeah,
holidays.
we don't. If anything, it's not bad that we kind of do a little thicker review of the breadth indicator because I think it's doing its job admirably. I mean, if one thing you should have taken away from the breadth indicator information through this fall was that rally. I mean, the irony of it all is, from a trade, it worked out beautifully. It's literally That's exactly what the market did. It just went chunk, 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 chunk right up into this liquidity pool, took it out. I mean, it was the most beautiful trade forever. I mean, and it's exactly what I want to see out of this indicator. Absolutely perfect. So, the irony of it all is that we broke there at the end of October, and actually, you can even see the beautiful M top there in the S&Ps. Yes, the stock market kept moving higher into those profit objectives of this trade, but once it was all a fugazi. And interestingly enough, this is actually a massive divergence where the indicator itself is making lower highs and lower lows, but the stock prices themselves are making higher highs and higher lows. The Dow one was even more pronounced. You can see these highs were nowhere near that high. And we sort of finally flushed out there a week or so ago. And the irony of it all is we actually flushed out at just about the same price that we originally bottomed at. And actually, I think I put a tweet out to that effect. Where was that? That was a while ago, so bear with me here a second. Is it this one? So this was the end of October, beginning of November. So there's the end of October, beginning of November. So we actually started to go into divergence here. And what I would just simply say is this was all sort of fluff, which is kind of sucky. I mean, it's the way our society works. It's such a shame. I think you could make the argument, downtrend lines, our rule about downtrend lines, we want to see W's on other sides of them. I mean, maybe that produced a W that you could have traded, although it looks awfully ugly. But and you can see we kind of came up against this trend line, went through it, then backed away, then lower low, then spike straight up, then M's all the way down to new lows, then spike up, down. I'm sure some people said this is it, this is the turn. There's a bit of a pop here. If anything, what I like to do is, and actually Chris and I are having a lot of fun running a opening range trade setup plan. And in essence, it's the same logic where you sort of identify a range, go long on a break of the top of the range, and then whatever this range risk is, if it gets to 1-to-1, you get to move your stop to scratch. And I have a funny feeling that's exactly what that size was. I suppose, how do I want to do this? I mean, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to stick to the 30-minute total, but I'll just try my best. Anyway, yeah, here is our fun little opening range trade model. But just to see if I can show you on that particular chart, because obviously it wasn't opening range. But where are we here? Is it this one? There we go. Yeah, see, I've been thinking all along that we were going to get some sort of Santa Claus rally, and it just never formed. But I just do, actually, I think I have it over here. This should be my 4-hour chart. Yeah. Okay, so there is that range. Was this a tradable bottom? Maybe. But there, up to there, and then what we would say is that if we, you're going to go long on a break above that high, going to go short on a break of that low, and if you replicate that range, then you get to move your stop to scratch. I mean, it's pretty typical move that we do. So the way that you would see that is just what's 200% of that range, and that's our extensions, and boom, there's 200%. The interesting thing is we also have a rule. Actually, it'd be interesting to see if this was hit. That 2-to-1, you actually force yourself to take some profits. Oh, isn't that interesting? Look how we just missed that. Oh, another perfect analogy of this crappy trader market.
Yeah, that would have made me upset right there.
So we'd have our permission to move stop to scratch right here on that event right there. and this would be like, I mean, you've probably seen me doing this 100 times, right? Like, I mean, oh God, to have the balls to actually go long on the move through that and have to take all this risk. I doubt many of us would do that, but we put like our profit objective at 2 to 1 risk reward. Of course, we have to have a little bit more risk because our stop is just below that level. That means we really want to have our stop like right up at that 2 to 1, and look how we just missed. So at best, we got to move stop to scratch. And notice, right? If anything, this is a good analogy of a trader's life. Notice there's the entry, and notice slam down straight into that level. So clearly, there were probably a lot of people that did exactly that, and that became a liquidity pool. So as soon as all those orders were all sucked up, and of course this is also a Wyckoff check, so there were buy orders placed off of that level as well, which is dangerous. I've noticed that a lot of Wyckoff check trades these days not really working very well. There is sort of your Wyckoff bounce, and then of course we rolled over, and it turns out in hindsight, of course, 2020, that actually becomes a new sell level. So, and actually when I first started trading, so that trade actually ended there at really basically scratch. So anyway, I'm supposed to be doing the 30-minute summary, aren't I? Oops.
Maybe one news headline.
Yeah, why don't we so that was supposed to be about the bread. Anyway, what was it? I think I was showing it. Yeah, this is what I was showing you. So, as it stands right now, we're still working our way down. The question here is, have we finally ultimately bottomed? Whoops, there's the OBS. Am I doing my OBS? Should I just close that? I didn't even know that was.
Yep, you should close that.
All right. See how OBS. I hope I didn't blow up the video. Okay, so a bit flustered here. Got to stay on track. If anything, call it Christmas. It's a eggnog hangover. That's what it is. All right, let's pop on over. I don't even really notice if there's any quote unquote news of note. Let's see what we got here. These guys are usually pretty leftist, so my hunch is they probably have some sort of Trump dig in here, but let's see. Yeah, I did notice it. That was a little bit odd. So Russia's now trying to sue for peace. Is it a delay tactic? I don't know. I mean, Mr. Putin is responsible for an awful lot of people's deaths here. I mean, it's remarkable. Like hundreds of thousands of people have died here. So it is. I don't know whether it's even too late to be able to have these kind of peace talks without the Russians completely pulling out. I think the Ukrainians, they're in it to win it, right? Anyway, so it is interesting to see that that Putin's trying to play sort of a backing out, probably trying to force a wedge. The Germans. We talked about poor old Stuart there in Netherlands. So if anything, he's probably trying to play on their concerns. Interesting. You don't really see the end of cheap mortgages. I'd have to say that's correct. If there was anything that we can mark this cycle is, man, those interest rates turned on a dime. And interesting too, I kind of was wondering this. I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I believe that actually the top in the interest rate market is pretty close. The Fed obviously is going to keep their foot on the gas pedal on the short end until they actually break something, but the yield curve has gone completely inverted. And there's lots of M's in the long-term interest rate charts, and our sort of inflation deflation guide is actually pointing towards deflation now, not inflation. So interestingly enough, or no pun intended, the public is all concentrating on inflation and interest rates, and ironically enough, that's yesterday's news, not tomorrow's news. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know how this, I have been hearing more and more. Um, well, yeah, okay, it's not really new stuff anyway. Uh, we'll see how the Chinese markets goes. I did specifically warn people on the site about 2 weeks ago. Chris, do you remember this? I specifically said that the cases of COVID in China are about to go absolutely insane. Do you remember that?
It's not ringing a bell at the moment, but I'm
I
not.
specifically remember I said this. Um, and uh, and now I'm hearing that they are expecting 240 million cases of COVID now. That's almost as many people as there are in North America. I couldn't believe it. And the government has actually said they're going to stop reporting the numbers now. I mean, God, was that whole past 2.5 years for nothing? What we just went through over the past 2.5 years, was it just all? I mean, God, those are crazy. Anyway, so I distinctly remembered they're basically Winnie the Pooh locked down the country because their vaccines wouldn't work and they didn't work. And the only solution he had was to basically do this zero COVID policy, which almost exploded into civil war and people actually calling for Winnie's head. And so he said, fine, release all the COVID restrictions. And now COVID's absolutely out of control. So we'll see how all this plays out. Frankly speaking, it was, well, not frankly, I don't know. It was about a month or so. I remember seeing a video back in sort of December 2019 of this dead body in the streets of China. And then Billy Gates came on about a month or so later on was it Oprah Winfrey? Is Oprah Winfrey still on? I can't remember who it was, what show he went on, talking about dead bodies in the streets. And then, of course, all hell broke loose in North America in about February. So my hunch is here we are at the end of December, probably the end of January, beginning of February, we're probably going to be heading into the soup. If anything, Chris, get over to Mallorca, get all nice and settled, set up with Andrea in a nice pad through the month of January, and then just kick back and relax in paradise. And you guys are probably just going to be hanging out there trading away for the next little while from paradise. So
That
there you go.
is the plan. That is what I'm
Yeah,
hoping
I
for.
don't think you want to be in North America. It's gonna be funny watching Brian fucking blow a gasket through this next cycle. Because these guys, my arm is still, I can almost raise my arm. Well, no, I mean it's almost to the point where I can raise my arm back above my head. But holy crap, this past 6 months since I had those shots and stuff, my body's done some really weird things. Like I don't know, I really don't want to do any more of that crap. Anyway.
Well, we've only got a few minutes left till 10 a.m. your time, so
Yeah.
maybe we want to leave
So
these
we talked
folks.
a little bit of news, not too much. I don't know what else there really is to talk about
I heard you
here.
had a trade over in crypto land filled over the weekend on that FXS, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, actually, and here's the half of my problem is I'm not as smart as you guys when it comes to the actual story. So I end up actually leaning on you guys a lot. Where would I have that? I guess over here. I end up leaning on you guys a lot for ideas. Um, Actually, it's interesting. Look at all of these right across the board. I said you said we only have a couple minutes, so I mean it's interesting. We could actually go through all of these. I mean the stocks, they all look meh. But look at what Sushi's doing here. What letter of the alphabet is that? Something's going on. Down, up, down, up, down. Huh? Boom. Hello. So is that not a buy signal? I think that's what we call a buy signal right there, right? Huh. So that's interesting. I'm still underwater on this guy, but you guys all know my uncle points over here, so we haven't broken my uncle point, so we're just sort of treading water. Matic, probably another example of one that I bought over the fall. Look at what's happening here. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Oh, it's trying to break out here. Actually, Matic is just sitting there. So the other one, that sushi I just showed you, it did break up, but this one right here, 80.72, can even give you the mark. How often do you see YouTubers actually tell you exactly the buy point? You don't see that every day. So there you go. Let's keep an eye on that. You can hold Brian's feet to the fire. And of course, that's basically exactly where I'm on, because you know how much Brian loves his 78.6. Yeah, there you go. So Merry Christmas right there. Son of a gun. That's kind of cool. We're going through this. Let's see what our buddy Link looks like. Oh yeah, look, he's trying to as well. Hey, this is everything that we try and teach you, folks. Notice, there is this most recent range. There is reload zones. Chris, I mean, you tell me, how many times have I told you that often I look back over time and you'll see that the bottom develops right off a 78.6 level?
So much so that I've added it to my personal trading plan, and I like 78.6s as well. They're very juicy areas.
So, I mean, it shouldn't surprise anybody watching this that this is actually doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I don't know whether you say something like that or not. So fascinating how the breadth indicator is turned up, and actually all of these little guys are all pointing higher. Bitcoin here. Now, Bitcoin's at an incredibly powerful junction right here. And I was putting a tweet out to the effect, honestly, I mean, the hardest part of this trader's life, and it's a pain in the butt for you to really learn this, is it's not your job to predict the future. It just isn't. And those people that get into the business of predicting the future, I think this is going to happen, so follow me. Invariably, they end, the story always ends the same way. Always. And it drives you crazy. I don't know. In a weird sort of way, I was kind of talking to the site people about my masochism the other day. And a lot of guys at my old prop firm were like, Brian, you're crazy. Why are you going to go to the public and say the message that's the correct message? Because you know that they're not going to listen to you. And, I hate to say it, over the past 5-10 years, that's exactly what I've seen. I do get through to a few people, but what ends up happening is usually they have to go through a bunch of pain to begin with, and they go, yeah, well, now I can understand all the rules that you try and teach us. So anyway, our job is to say, all right, if something like this does happen, then what's the probability in something that I would like to see happen follow suit? Here's a good example. This is a bot setup. It's a really simple one that I drew up here. I don't even think the levels are really that tradable. This would have been a tough one, but basically it's projecting up into this ABCD objective. So, what's the statistical probability? Notice we put in this wide W. We're trying to break out. If we break out through the top here, I think the statistical probability that we had up here, we had 70-80%. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Doesn't mean I'm going to predict the future. That I think the market is going to go up. Because quite often, the day you say that, that's the day when that 30-40% jumps out and it does the exact opposite, and it drives you crazy. What you need to do is say, well, if these circumstances do develop, then the statistical odds of seeing a favorable outcome ought to be in place. And so I'm comfortable taking the risk. And if it doesn't work out, I limited my risk, so I didn't have to take that much of a loss. Next bus in 10 minutes. Nobody in the public is interested in what you have to say because you don't walk on water anymore. It's just the way this game works. So anyway, the point of the matter here is I actually conjectured, and honestly, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm a technician, not a crystal ball reader. But what I did find interesting about this Bitcoin story right now is it appears that we're in this massive megaphone type pattern. And I think that we've traded the one, the two on both sides, and now we've got to do the threes on either side. And it's fascinating how you can actually see technically if we break down here and we go through this 25 level, then a short trade sets up and it means losing this trend line. And like I said, statistical odds of us heading down into this ABCD, probably like 60, 70%. So, that's a trade that we want to try and concentrate on. Doesn't necessarily mean it's guaranteed, but statistically, odds are it's probably fairly reasonable to expect this outcome. Conversely, and I thought this was interesting, this massive harmonic pattern at 113, that's the extension level, and actually this can go as high as 127, all the way up actually up into that area. And actually that's an interesting number too, because you notice there's a 4669 up there. But it's interesting how we can rally up into that level as well. So you can make the argument that both scenarios are realistic, and you as a trader, if you're actually a trader, then what you have to do is you have to plot out kind of like this bearish scenario. All right, if we do go in M out, -3 lower highs, do I have the balls to take that 16,526 short? As it stands right now, and as this graphic sort of pointed out, one trading plan I'm running is just to simply take the algo signal. So I'm actually long this level right in here. And if this rolls over back bearish, then I'll just hop off. That's no big deal. I'm not going to play the short side. I'm just going to play the longs, and maybe down the road I'll figure out I don't know. Half the problem is Binance going to make it? I get the impression Binance is going to sort of make it through all this nonsense. And I do find it interesting that if all these W's and stuff start coming in across the board, then probably it means that the FUD and all that is gone. Interesting that sushi is actually W'd out here. Now it is actually, well, okay, I could go on. Just to finish up this thought and finish up this summary video right now, I did go recent idea, and I was sort of saying there earlier that I would love to be as smart as all of you in the crypto space and be able to talk to you guys about fundamental drivers and all that kind of stuff and why this is such an awesome story. I'm a technician by trade, so I look at charts. Then I go to the community and I say, okay, guys, what do you think of this story? The stories come across as pretty positive. So you can see where we are at the bottom end of this range. We've tested this low a few times now. In fact, we haven't confirmed through this high. So I would say at best this is a potential trend line, not a confirmed trend line. Now, interesting how we had this 1 day spike go up through this high here. This is where, technical analysis is more of an art form than a science. Do you call that a confirmed trend line? It's there. The fact that we did go through this high, cleaned out that liquidity pool up there, I actually didn't mind the idea of just simply drawing a fib off of this range and seeing if I could sneak in on a test of the lows down the road. And of course, you all know how much I love my 78.6 fib, so I just threw in a stink bid just to get the position going. I think it's still, I don't know whether, I think it's still in the hundreds of dollars, not thousands. But it might be about $1,000 that I put into this so far. The interesting thing is, I think I can make the argument that this is probably your sort of 2025 target zone, somewhere up in that area. Coming up and testing these highs, 2025, let's say 2024, somewhere up in that area. And then if we go into another one of our crazy ass crypto nutso bull markets, then believe it or not, and this is exactly the same as what Luna did, the same thing what FTX did, believe it or not, my target's actually up into here. And I thought this was interesting because if you think about this, this is like, basically the better part of $400. This 877 seems to be the better part of $40. Interesting. And where are we currently? Interesting how we are sitting basically around $4. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that the ultimate bottom, I mean, maybe through the first quarter of the year, there's some sort of, like FU move down, something like that. And we end up doing something along those lines. But I got a funny feeling that $4 area is some sort of important zone for this thing. And as I said, 877s to take us back up against the previous cycle highs is 10x that level. Makes perfect sense. Seen that happen a number of times. And then, like I said, we go into the next big cycle peak, and 10x of that is up into this 400 area. The interesting thing about this is that what I'm simply saying is there upside potential in a name like this? And I think there's a lot of upside potential. I would say that, when we're going through these cycles, and especially this back and forth here, I would say, okay, well, fine. If we do break out through the top, then those levels up top are valid. Unfortunately, as soon as we start emming out and start, of course, breaking through these lows, then all of that talk's got to be on pause. The only time when you can really start talking about this kind of stuff is if you actually start seeing W's coming in. So that's like what I said here. There's something significant happened here. We're starting to W. I like those future projections. And, in crypto, we see a lot of these 10x moves. Ironically enough, from this point, the only thing I really care to see, and ironically enough, if it happens, then all of these higher sort of projections all start kicking in. But all I really want to see is, can I just please see a test of this high? Can you go and clean out that liquidity pool? Because if you do, then I get my double. And interestingly enough, right, in a weird sort of way, notice there's a fog and bomb. And I don't think that fog and bomb sitting where it is an accident, especially considering where this number is here. I thought this was shocking when I saw this yesterday. This to me looks like a completely manufactured trade. So we'll see what happens, but I feel pretty good about picking up some of this FXS right up against the lows of the range. Took a lot of patience and discipline just to simply wait for that. And what I've told the community, and I think we'll leave the video off on this. This is about 30, 35 minutes. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. If I can get a W on the other side of this trend line, I go by default and buy more. So I've nibbled, and I will start to gobble on technically supportive reasons going forward here. And, as I sort of said about the 2015 bottom, I really like the idea that we're now within probably, if it's not the next 3 months, definitely within the next 6 months, we are now finally at the bottom. It will take a long time to turn back up and for us to see that, yes, indeed, looking back in hindsight, it was the bottom. That will probably come at the end of 2023. But my hunch is, and this is just 30-year veteran predicting the future, which of course we don't want to be doing. My grand prediction, and I'm not taking a trade off of this. If anything, what I want to see happen is I want to see all the public come out and talk about all the short ideas and how much they love the short side of crypto and how they want to short this thing into the ground and how crypto is going to zero and how it's all a scam and how the US regulators are going to regulate crypto into oblivion. That is my sign that we are done. And then finally, through all that, we'll sprinkle in a little bit of 51% attack talk. And then I know for certain the correction is over. So how ironic, eh? So can I find names where I can take the next 6 months or so and start to hunt for, I lean on the community for good fundamental research. And one of our site members is a big fan of this project, and he thinks fundamentally it's got a shot. So, as a good technician, I just got to put my money where my mouth is, and I am accumulating. So there you go. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Uh, Stay tuned. We're going to spend the next half hour. Well, actually, probably the next couple hours because I'm not really in a hurry. I had a great day with my son yesterday. Got to talk to a loved one back east that she's still full of piss and vinegar. So it's good to hear. I don't think she's going anywhere. May have put a big smile on my face. I have this wonderful community surrounding me. I have to be a lot to be thankful for. Thank you very much. Hey, I got 30, 40 people over there watching the video live here. I'm sure you're going to get quite a few views through the week on this if I can somehow stop talking. But pop in to the site. Actually, are we going to do it private? When do we do it private or public? Let's go and dig through the COT reports and see if we can set ourselves up for the coming week with expectations going forward in the commodities industry. All right. Have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. All the best. Hugs and kisses. Bye for now.